Imagine waking up in your village in the year 1800. It's pitch black. Everyone is asleep. Then, something flies through your window. You light a candle, and staring back at you is a human skull. Not a person, not a ghost. A moth. With a perfect human skull carved into its back. Your neighbors told you what this means. Someone in the village is going to die. This is the African death's head hawkmoth. It's one of 3 species in the death's head family, and arguably the most feared insect in human history. It lives across Africa, the Middle East, and migrates all the way into Europe every single year. It is enormous for a moth, with a wingspan that can reach up to 120 millimeters. It flies fast, it flies silent, and it flies at night. And it has been doing this for millions of years before humans ever existed. Now let's talk about that skull. Because this is not a coincidence. That marking on its thorax, the back section behind its head, is a genuine, symmetrical, human skull-shaped pattern. Yellow and black, 2 eye sockets, a nose cavity, a jaw line. Scientists believe it evolved as a defense mechanism to startle predators. When a bird goes to attack it, it spreads its wings and flashes that skull. Most predators freeze. That split second is all the moth needs to escape. Evolution literally gave this insect a death mask to survive. But for thousands of years, humans had no idea about evolution, and what they saw terrified them. In ancient Egypt, the moth was associated with the god of the dead. Priests considered it a messenger from the underworld. In medieval Europe, if a death's head hawkmoth flew into your home, you immediately locked your doors because it meant plague, war, or famine was coming to your town. In parts of West Africa, the moth was believed to be a witch in disguise. Women would refuse to touch it. Men would burn it on sight. In 18th century Ireland, the moth was called the devil's bird, even though it's not a bird. Farmers would find them in their barns and take it as a sign their cattle would die before morning. Edgar Allan Poe, the master of horror, referenced the death's head moth in his famous story, The Sphinx. Even Hollywood used it. You've seen it. The skull moth on the poster of Silence of the Lambs, one of the greatest horror films ever made, that is a death's head hawkmoth placed over the mouth of the victim. The imagery of death, silence, and terror, all from one real insect. But here is where it gets truly unbelievable. This moth doesn't just look terrifying, it behaves like something out of a horror movie. First, it screams. When you touch or threaten a death's head hawkmoth, it produces a loud, high-pitched squeak by forcing air through its specially adapted mouth. It is the only moth in the world that makes a sound like this. Second, it robs beehives. This moth flies directly into active beehives filled with thousands of bees and steals honey. And here is the insane part. The bees do nothing. Why? Because the moth has evolved to produce a chemical cocktail of compounds that perfectly mimics the scent of the queen bee. To every bee in that hive, the moth smells like their queen. It is completely invisible. It walks through thousands of deadly stingers like a ghost. Third, it is incredibly fast. It can fly at over 50 kilometers per hour. It is one of the fastest insects on Earth. It feeds on nectar while hovering like a hummingbird, never landing on the flower. A ghost that moves like a bullet. Today, scientists are fascinated by this moth for 3 reasons. First, its bee mimicry is being studied to understand chemical communication in insects. The compounds it produces could help researchers develop new ways to protect bee colonies. Second, its flight mechanics. The way it hovers and navigates at night using polarized moonlight is being used to design better night vision drone technology. Third, its sound production. No other moth evolved to make noise like this. Understanding why could reveal entirely new paths in evolutionary biology. This ancient, terrifying creature that made villagers lock their doors for thousands of years is now helping build the future. So next time you hear something at your window on a dark night, just remember, somewhere out there, a moth with a human skull on its back is flying through the darkness. It can scream. It can outsmart an entire beehive. It moves faster than you can react. And it has been doing this completely unchanged for millions of years. Nature didn't create this thing to be beautiful. Nature created it to survive, and it's very, very good at its job. If this blew your mind, subscribe.